Is that my paper?
Bad news, my friend.
What? What news?
Zentrax.
Oh, come on. It's down again.
2.5 points.
Oh, I can't believe it. Let me see that.
Ooh.
That's 4.5 points in 3 days. That's almost half my money.
Hey, I told you.
Yeah, you told me.
It's all manipulated with junk bonds. You can't win.
There's one thing I don't understand. Why does it please you? George Costanza,
I don't
please.
care. I'm just telling you to get rid of that stock now.
George, what's going on?
Sell him. Just say, I'm selling.
Well, where is the guy? Nothing.
Gee.
Almost half my money's gone. Well, call me right back. Nobody can reach Wilkinson. He hasn't been home or in his office in the past 3 days.
You know, I can't believe you put your money in that Zentrax. You could have invested in my roll-out tie dispenser.
The roll-out tie dispenser. What was that one?
Okay, you're in a restaurant. You got a very big meeting coming up.
Okay.
Oh, man.
You got mustard on your tie.
Oh, no.
You just tear it off and you got a new one right here. Then you're gone.
Zentrax was the name of the share that Jerry and George bought on
The famous Seinfeld episode.
Seinfeld episode, season 1, episode 5, the stock tip.
Yeah.
Is what it was called.
If you haven't watched it or you don't remember it, go back and watch. Like all Seinfeld episodes, it's worth watching again. So go back and watch it. And that's what you want to talk about today, Michael.
Yeah. So in the episode, they get word from a man called Wilkinson that never appears in the actual episode, and he's supposed to be a stock tip guru.
Yep.
They get word to invest some money into a company called Zentrax.
Yeah.
Great name, by the way,
Yeah.
for a speculative company. So Jerry and George invest a sum of money in there, and then it just takes over their lives.
Yes.
So it's a little bit dated, which is good because they're
reading the newspaper.
They're reading the newspaper, so they're getting
that's actually a good point because at that time it could only consume your life so much because you had to wait for the next newspaper to come out. Whereas now with an iPhone, you could be checking share prices every
it could really take over your life.
Yeah.
So it just takes over their lives. They're watching the price. They're following it up and down. It's going down more than it's going up.
Yeah.
They can't get hold of Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Wilkinson's in a hospital somewhere. Later on in the episode, George actually decides to actually go to hospital to
find this guy.
to find this guy and ask him what's happening with this stock Zentrax. So, Dallas, you and I have seen this manifest itself before
about 1,000 times, Michael.
With various people.
Yeah.
And it got me to thinking and wanting to talk about, unless you really enjoy this stuff, it really doesn't serve a purpose.
No.
It's a little bit like Gordon Ramsay going into some of these restaurants that I see around the world, and people are trying to do all this tricky stuff with food.
Yeah. And
he says he'll just cook a nice sea bass fish and chips and say, look,
that's it.
It's delicious. It's
fresh.
It's fresh. It's like
well,
local and all that sort of stuff. So people are trying to infuse little pallets of things and so forth. So that's a little bit like it for us.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We love the great quality companies of Australia.
I thought you were going to say we like gambling because we do enjoy gambling.
Well, we allocate some money for that on occasion as well.
But that's I think the way that I it is really interesting, the whole concept of the stock tip. I've got this tip on this little specky mining company. I've got this tip on this little bio, this medical research company. And it's always these little speculative sort of things like that. That it touches on a thing that I've been thinking about a lot recently, which is there's a weird perception that we have as human beings. It's like if we don't understand something, or if something's a very complex system, like we look at it and assume there must be like a shortcut or there must be an easy way. And so I think the same thing applies with our money as what it does with our health. So like we go, there's this amorphous thing which is, my money, my finances, planning for my retirement. it sounds like there's a lot involved in it, and there's all these two blokes that bang on about 250 episodes of different things. But maybe there's just one. Maybe there's one company that I can buy, and I'll put some money, and it'll go up 100 times, and then that'll be my retirement sorted, and then I don't have to get into the weeds of the complexity of it all. And so, I guess the point, and this is one of those things, it's not to say that doesn't happen. There are companies that go up by 100 times.
Absolutely.
But if that's your retirement plan, then I don't. Number one, I wouldn't recommend it. And number two, you might as well stop listening now and just go and try and pick that company. But I don't think that anyone. Not only do I not think that it is feasible or on average likely to happen, I don't think it's a way for anyone to plan for their retirement, and I don't think that anyone, even people who that's what they do for a job, is try and pick those little specky companies. They wouldn't be doing that with their retirement savings. They wouldn't be going, that's my plan to fund my retirement.
So that's one of the flaws with it. So because it's just unknown, because it's a black box that no one really understands, and nor should you. So basically when you make decisions, the price at that point in time is based on historical data to a large point.
Yeah.
No one knows what's going to happen in the future. No one knows if that drug is going to be approved by the FDA or
whatever the equivalent is.
Yeah. So it's all based on the past and the assumption of what's going to happen in the future. Now that assumption may or may not happen.
Yeah.
If it happens, things can go the way that you thought they would. If it doesn't happen, things go south pretty quickly. So, my point is, no one, nor should they be, no one is prepared to put a significant enough amount of money into these things to actually make any meaningful difference. So
that's another good point. I think, just to, I guess, make that concrete, Michael, like we were just talking about, even if you, so there's a podcast I stumbled across a while ago, talking about micro cap investing. So people investing in these really small companies. And the name of the podcast was Trawling for 10 Baggers. And what that means is trying to find a company that goes up 10 times. And I thought that was really interesting, not because to try and find that company, but the concept of an absolute home run in this type of investing is for it to go up 10 times. Now, if you need $2 million for your retirement, you have to, and you do actually manage to find one of these companies, you have to have put $200,000 into it for it to go up 10 times, for it to get to your retirement savings target.
That's a great point.
And that's exactly what you're saying. You have to risk $200,000 in order to actually achieve, if you do find one of these companies that goes up 10 times, to achieve the outcome that you need. And then invariably what happens is people shouldn't do that, and so because of that they don't. So people might put 10 grand or 20 grand or 30 grand into this little specky company, and then as these guys do in Seinfeld, they'll watch it, they'll torture themselves, it'll go up, it'll go down. Even if they get this great result, it goes from $30,000 to $100,000, and then they go, okay, great, that's a good win. I've had a good result there. I feel really happy about myself. It's $100,000. You need $2 million. Like, what are you going to do for the other 1.9? You still need a retirement plan. You still need to work out how you're going to meet the rest of that shortfall.
Yeah. So and the other thing that I see often is that people will spread their eggs across a few of these companies. So instead of putting $200,000 into this company, this metaphorical company that's going to go up 10 times. What they do is it inevitably it becomes $40,000.
Yes, spread out across 5 companies.
So what I've seen often is even if you hit one of those good companies, oftentimes the other 4, 2 of them go down, and the other 2 stay still. It dilutes the entire process. And we're certainly not saying don't do. Look, if you really enjoy this, if you really enjoy picking a few, I mean, our rule of thumb, if you really enjoy this, our rule of thumb is don't put any more than 10% of your larger, diversified group of the world's best 1,700 companies. Don't put any more than 10% in that. The reason that 10% rule comes in is that if you absolutely lose the lot of the speculative stocks that you're buying,
Doesn't hurt you too much.
it only takes you back about 12 months.
Yeah.
From where you were.
Yeah, that's a good
because
point.
you picked that 10% up, not always in 12 months, but fairly closely to around that 12-month period of time.
Yeah.
So look, it's just one of those things though that we be careful if you're doing this, because we've just seen this take over people's lives.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely takes over. I don't think
separate to the financial cost of, like you say, maybe potentially losing that money. But as you say, if you approach it eyes wide open and do it knowing that you may well lose that money, that's fine. But the taking over of people's lives is a really interesting thing. And particularly, I guess, there's a component of it which is probably that for people who aren't interested in and don't enjoy it, you're doing something that is torturing you, really, that you don't enjoy. But then there's also a component of there's only so much time and energy we've got to focus on things. If you actually have really important, meaningful things that you need to be doing in order to grow your retirement savings, what we've seen is that gets crowded out by the stock tip type investing. So you go, okay, well, you need to be maxing out your contributions to super. You need to make sure that you've got your super in your. So the same sort of people that will torture themselves and worry about trying to find this little specky company they can put 10 grand into. They've got $700,000 in super, and half of that is invested in cash and not working for them. And so there's low hanging fruit that they could be picking up that they're not picking up because their energy and their attention is so fixated on trying to find the next Apple or trying to find that 10 bagger that's going to go up and make all their problems go away. So I guess that's probably in the same way that 10% of your retirement savings is how much money you should allocate. I would say that of your financial planning, it shouldn't take up more than 10% of that time either.
No, that's a great point. And just to be clear, of course, when we're not saying don't invest into great quality companies.
No,
what we advocate is buying a large, diversified and deep group of Australia and the world's leading companies, up to 1,700 companies, is what we advocate. So you actually get so much more diversification. You capture not quite, but almost every dollar that's getting spent around the world. There's a portion of that going to a lot of the companies that you actually own in that group. And it's that consumption, it's that continual consumption of human beings that flows through to the profits of one or many more of your companies for every single dollar that's spent.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good point, even just as that comparison of if I've got $10,000 invested in a little specky mining company and I've got $10,000 invested in a company that does medical research, is trying to hunt for the next breakthrough drug, and I've got $10,000 invested in Woolworths. If I think about what has to happen for the mining company to be successful, they got to strike gold, and then they've got to be able to have the skill to execute on that find and be able to get it out of the ground at a decent price and have commodities prices stay high, and they've got to do all that. And then if that happens, then I'll make way more money. For the medical research company, they've got to be able to find the right scientists to do all the research, come up with this breakthrough drug, get that through government regulation, mass produce it in a way that it can be commercialized. All these hoops that have to be jumped through. For my Woolworths shares, what needs to happen for them to go up? People need to eat. That's it. That's all that happens is people need to go to Woolworths on their way home from work and buy groceries, and that's all that happens. Now, it's obviously not as exciting. It's not as interesting. It's not as there's not the same scope for that huge growth. But I can be fairly sure that one of those three things is going to happen, and the other two I can't rely on at all.
Yeah, and for you and I, because we live and breathe this every day, we don't get excited about these individual stocks or companies because
you do for the first few, and then you just get burnt out. You go, oh, here we go. This.
Yeah, and look, we've done it before. You and I have done it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We've had some good ones. We've learnt the hard way with some other ones. And when you look at it all and you reflect on it and you go, all that energy that we used,
what a waste.
Yeah, like. That was far better off spent reading tax law.
Yes.
and working out how we can pull all the tax legislation together for our clients and ourselves to get a guaranteed return of 24% in 1 year by arbitraging
your income tax
39% marginal rate of tax down to 15% on the way into superannuation. So that's just an example. We'd far prefer to put our time and effort into that. Now that's really what excites us. Defrauding the tax man is
you really shouldn't say that on a public forum. we mean that in the most legal and compliant way possible.
Legally, I just like getting him. And
you really like the anthropomorphic, the personification of the ATO, where it's like it's a man in a room somewhere and you're doing battle with him. The ATO is this behemoth that you're like a fly that they're just flicking away from you, mate.
I'm sure one day a team of Volvos is going to turn up and all these tax men are going to come out and instead of FBI on their trench coat, will have ATO on there, and they'll come in and say we've got you now, Hogue.
And then we'll go. Do your best. Nothing that we've said or done is it's
all perfectly legal. I'll be sitting there like the smug hedge fund manager, laughing at the FBI
You've watched way too much TV, mate.
Well, this is what has to happen when you do a 5-minute podcast. You got to stretch it out. We got to play a 2-minute clip beforehand.
So the takeaway from this, we've said it before, and we'll say it again. Number one, if you do feel the need to invest in, and I always find it funny because people will come to us and go, "Well, I've got this tip." Okay, and we'll start doing that voice. Right? I've heard this, and they go, "No, this is different because it's my mate's cousin's girlfriend. She works in the office." Yep, I've heard. If not the exact story, I've heard something very similar many times. So, if you find yourself in that situation, or even just you find this interesting, and so you go looking for these little tips, the rules of thumb basically are number one, don't assume that this is going to be the thing that sets you up for retirement. So, don't put more than 10% of your retirement savings into any speculative investment. And assume that money is going to go away, and because of that, you're going to have to work for another year. That's if you're not willing to work for another year, don't invest anything. Yeah,
look, that's a good rule of thumb. I think assume that money is going to disappear forever.
Yep.
And anything north of that is a positive.
Yep.
So I think it needs to be tempered with exactly that, Dallas. It's going to cost you about 12 months of your working life,
which makes it a lot less exciting to people straight off.
It does, because that's a significant amount of energy and effort, obviously.
And that's sort of part two of that. I think is that if you do decide, no, I'm happy to roll the dice there. I do think this is a good idea. I'm going to do this. Do it, but the other part of that, how much to put into it, is don't let this consume your life. Don't then watch it, track it. I mean, a good rule of thumb for me with any of this stuff is you basically go, the person who's, and this is the joke from the Seinfeld episode, is the person who's given you that tip, go into it thinking, okay, well, I trust their judgment on this exact thing. I'm going to put a small amount of money in. Now, normally what I'd be saying to that person is, you tell me when you're selling out as well. And then you don't have to give any thought to this the whole way through. So you buy at the same time as them, you sell at the same time as them. When they say, hey, I'm selling out, you should probably too. Just do that. Don't pay any attention to the price in the meantime. Don't pay any attention to any news about it. Don't do anything like that. And in the meantime, use that time and energy and attention that you're going to torture yourself with to actually focus on the important things. What can you do? What's the low-hanging fruit you can pick up? How can you get your retirement savings invested in the right asset classes? How can you pick up some of those tax savings along the way? How can you be getting yourself set up for a tax-free retirement? All those sorts of things. That's really where your energy and where your attention should be focused.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 financial advisors. For more information and resources, visit the Money Over 50 website, mo50.com.au. We look forward to catching up again soon.